first time on your screens, watch the Uttarakhand flood deluge. Only on India Today, Disaster Zone Report.
बाकी एजेंसी ITBP NDRF के साथ मिलकर पूरे प्रयास कर हर वो एफर्ट कर रही है जिससे अगर यहाँ पर कोई लोग अभी फंसे हों उनको निकाला जाए.
Most detailed report from Ground Zero. No other channel has come this far. Unparalleled India Today reportage.
500 मीटर का ये हाईवे बह चुका है और अब यहाँ पर रोड से कम्युनिकेशन नहीं हो पा रहा है. हेलीकॉप्टर से राहत बचाव सामग्री आ रही है.
Devastation in Devbhoomi. Only channel at Ground Zero. That is our top focus on 5 Live.
Good evening and welcome to 5 Live. I am Pooja Shali. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next half an hour, what you're about to see, no other channel has access, and that's because our reporters on the ground, especially Manjeet Negi, has been able to trek and use all methods possible to reach that final destination in Dharali, where the flash floods have wiped off, swept villages. To help you understand what exactly unfolded in Uttarakhand barely about 2 days ago. So first things first, there is some relief that has come in Uttarkashi because rains have begun to ease. Crucial highway to the flooded Dharali has reopened, which means rescue efforts will be able to pick up pace. But it's the road access that is severely still disrupted in several areas, including Batwari, Linchighat, Gangrani, Harsil and Dharali. The main areas were the landslide and the disaster that unfolded. Restoration work is also in the progress. These are visuals on your screen coming from Dharali, especially because a civil helipad at the Nelong area has been made operational. But it's the Dharali helipad where the incident happened that's still unusable due to the landslide. 225 army personnel, including engineers, medics, rescue units are on the ground. 300 civilians, according to our reports, have been rescued. Critical patients are being airlifted to Dehradun and AIIMS Rishikesh. Meanwhile, there are 200 stranded tourists in Gangotri also receiving medical assistance, food, shelter. So whether it's the Indian Armed Forces, the civil administration, the government, and of course volunteers on the ground consistently helping. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami cut short his visit to Tirupati, is on the ground right now personally monitoring the rescue ops. He's also met some of the victims in the hospital as well. While all of this is happening, remember, we are not depending on secondary sources or social media to get you this coverage. India Today has taken all effort possible and has become the only channel on the ground right now. And I say that because it takes a lot of effort to be able to reach areas which are completely inaccessible. Our team is on the ground so that you, the viewer, know exactly what is happening. India Today's Manjeet Negi with these ground reports from Harsil specifically, where that massive landslide took place. Let's cut across to that.
हरसिल में आई आपदा की सुपर एक्सक्लूसिव कवरेज दिखा रहे हैं. इस वक्त मैं हरसिल में आर्मी के लोअर कैंप में मौजूद हूं. ये हाईवे गंगोत्री को जोड़ता है. जो लोग चार धाम यात्रा के दौरान गंगोत्री जाते हैं, आगे मुखवा और धराली होते हुए गंगोत्री का, और यहाँ पर 5 अगस्त को जब धराली में बादल फटने के बाद बाढ़ का विकराल रूप सामने आया, कई जगहों से जो मलबा है, जो सैलाब है वो आया. आप देखें सामने बड़े बड़े पत्थर और जो मिट्टी पत्थर को सैलाब का रूप लेकर इस लोअर कैंप को निशाना बनाया. और यहाँ पर जो भी चीज़ें मौजूद थी, दुकानें थी, उसके अलावा यहाँ पर आर्मी का जो पूरा कैंप था वो एक तरह से वॉश आउट यहाँ पर हो गया. गाड़ियाँ, सेना के ट्रक, जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर यहाँ पर मौजूद था, आर्मी की एक बड़ी मेस यहाँ पर मौजूद थी, वो पूरी तरह से वॉश आउट हो गए. मैं कई बार यहाँ हरसिल और चीन सरहद की कवरेज के दौरान इस मेस में रुका हुआ हूँ और आप देखें इस वक्त यहाँ पर क्या हालात है. एक पूरी एक प्रलय यहाँ पर नजर आ रही है. बड़े बड़े पत्थर, बोल्डर यहाँ पर उस सैलाब का में बहते हुए आए और उस दौरान यहाँ पर आर्मी के जो 8 जवान और एक जेसीओ थे वो यहाँ पर इस बाढ़ की चपेट में आए और अभी वो मिसिंग है, उनको ढूंढने का काम किया जा रहा है। देखिए वो विभीषिका किस तरह से बड़ी बड़ी गाड़ियां, ये एक सिविल गाड़ी है सफारी, ये उस सैलाब का शिकार हुई आर्मी का ये बड़ा ट्रक है जो उस दौरान वहां पर बचाने और तेज बहाव के बाद ये ट्रक यहाँ पर पूरी तरह से बह गया। इसके अलावा अब यहाँ पर जो राहत और बचाव का काम चल रहा है वो लगातार चल रहा है, लेकिन आप देखिए ये पूरा आर्मी का एक बड़ा कैंप आप देखें, यहाँ पर मौजूद हर चीज पानी के तेज बहाव में बह गई। ये ट्रक की हालत आप देखें, इतना मजबूत ये सेना का जो ट्रक है वो, और यहाँ कैंप में मौजूद तमाम चीजें बिखरी हुई है। ये सामान यहाँ पर आप देखें इस तरह से यहाँ मौजूद, यहाँ पर एक आर्मी का बड़ा ये इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर था, लोअर कैंप, जिस पर यहाँ पर आर्मी मेस के अलावा काफ़ी बड़ी संख्या में उस दौरान जवान मौजूद थे, और ये इस वक्त पूरी तरह से इस मलबे में तब्दील हो चुका है। ये यहाँ पर जो आर्मी मेस मौजूद थी उसका ये किचन है, और ये इसकी हाइट अगर देखें तो ये 12 फीट ऊंची किचन थी, और अब इसकी हाइट आप देखें ये मलबे में पूरी तरह से दब चुकी है। ये अंदर जो किचन का सामान है वो नजर आ रहा है, बाल्टी अंदर नजर आ रही है। ये दरवाजा देखें, ऐसे लग रहा है जैसे एक खिड़की बन गई हुई दरवाजे हैं। यहाँ पर ये फ्रिज आप देखें, ये फ्रिज नजर आ रहा है किचन का। ये मिक्सी यहाँ पर पड़ी हुई है। यहाँ पर जो आर्मी मेस थी, जो आर्मी के अधिकारी और बाकी लोग यहाँ ठहरते थे, वो उनके लिए यहाँ पर किचन का खाना बनता था। अंदर किचन का सारा सामान, मिक्सी यहाँ पर नजर आ रही है, ये शीशा नजर आ रहा है। तो ये जो बचा हुआ एक स्ट्रक्चर यहाँ पर किचन का हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं।
ये वाला बैग किसका है? ये आगे बढ़ाओ। चलो चलो आप चलो आप चलो आप चलो आप चलो हम लेके आ रहे, चलो आप चलो हम लेके आ रहे।
जिस तक तो सेना चला रही है, बाकी एजेंसियों के साथ, चाहे एनडीआरएफ हो, एसडीआरएफ हो, लोकल प्रशासन हो, यहाँ पर इस वक्त राहत और बचाव का काम चल रहा है। उम्मीद की जा रही है कि कुछ लोग अगर इस आपदा में फंसे हों, उनको निकालने का काम है। जो लोग फंसे हुए हैं उनको निकालने का काम चल रहा है। ड्रोन की भी मदद दी जा रही है, ड्रोन से। और ये देखिए, इस ड्रोन से भी ऊपर जो हीर गार्ड, जो सामने वाली घाटी है जहां से ये आपदा आई है, वहां पर इस ड्रोन को भेजकर देखा जा रहा है कि अगर ऊपर कोई झील बनी है तो इसको भी देखा जाए, क्योंकि सड़क से यहाँ तक पहुँचने का पूरे जो सड़क की आप देखिए, ये जो हाईवे है, ये 500 मीटर का ये हाईवे बह चुका है, और अब यहाँ पर रोड से कम्युनिकेशन नहीं हो पा रहा है। हेलीकॉप्टर से राहत बचाव सामग्री आ रही है, इसीलिए सेना यहाँ पर ड्रोन का भी इस्तेमाल कर रही है, जिसके जरिए आसपास के इलाकों में देखा जा रहा है कहीं कोई लोग फंसे हों। जो ये इलाका है 15 फीट जो मलबा है उसके नीचे दब चुका है। यहाँ पर कुछ भी अब नज़र नहीं आ रहा है, जबकि एक बड़ा आर्मी का कैंप था, तो एक मार्केट यहाँ पर थी हर्सिल की, वो दब चुकी है। हालांकि यहाँ पर क्योंकि सेना मौजूद थी, इसीलिए चाहे धनारी गांव की बात करें या हर्सिल गांव की बात करें, शुरुआत में ही पिछले 2 दिनों में सेना ने 150 से 200 लोगों को निकालने में कामयाबी हासिल की। हालांकि सेना के अभी 8 जवान और एक जेसीओ अभी भी मिसिंग है। इस तरह से उस वक्त 4 बजे के आसपास ये हादसा हुआ।
साहब, ये जैसे ही दराली में सैलाब आया, उसके बाद में ये नाला है ना, ये नाला ऐसा था कि यहाँ से 15 से 20 फीट नीचे था। इसमें से रोड है, ये रोड कम से कम 20 फीट नीचे दब चुका है। इसके ऊपर पूरा सैलाब आ गया। यहाँ जो आप खड़े हैं, ये हर्सिल ओनर है। ये नाला बिल्कुल यहाँ से कम से कम 30 मीटर आगे से चल जाता। यहाँ पर बिल्डिंग शुरू थी हमारी, ये पूरी बिल्डिंग बनी हुई थी, पूरा कैंप था, ये पूरा कैंप बना हुआ था। इस कैंप कम से कम 15 से 20 फीट हमारा कैंप नीचे दब गया। कुछ तो नीचे दबा हुआ, कुछ सैलाब के साथ तो बह गया। सबसे महत्वपूर्ण यहाँ पर ये आर्मी का
लोअर कैंप है जहां पर आर्मी का बड़ा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर था। यहाँ पर आर्मी की मेस मौजूद थी, 10 से 12 बिल्डिंगें थी, वीआईपी मेस थी और मैं खुद यहाँ पर कई बार रुका हूँ। अब यहाँ पर कुछ भी नजर नहीं आ रहा है। भागीरथी नदी के साथ ये पूरा जो इलाका है सपाट हो चुका है। कई मीटर जो मलबा यहाँ पर आप देखें, बड़े बड़े पत्थर, बोल्डर और रेत से ये पूरा इलाका दबा हुआ नजर आ रहा है। कुछ भी यहाँ पर नजर नहीं आया। ऐसा नहीं लग रहा है कि यहाँ पर कभी इतना बड़ा आर्मी का कैंप था। सेना जो राहत और बचाव का काम है, उनके जो मिसिंग जवान हैं उनको ढूंढने के मिशन में जुटी हुई है। यहाँ पर ये जो 2-3 छोटी बिल्डिंगें बची हैं उनमें जरूरी सामान निकाला जा रहा है। आप देखिए आर्मी मेस का जो सामान है वो इस गार्ड रूम में मौजूद है। यहाँ पर ये बिस्तर, ये बेड, गद्दे नजर आ रहे हैं, ये अलमारियां नजर आ रही हैं जिसमें जो मेस का सामान है वो मौजूद होता है। ये बड़े बॉक्सेस हैं जिनमें जरूरी साजो सामान रहता है और उनमें अब सेना के ये जवान, 14 राजपूताना राइफल के जवान जरूरी सामान ढूंढ रहे हैं। अपने उन साथियों को भी की ढूंढ की जा रही है जो 8 जवान, एक जेसीओ इस हादसे में मिसिंग हैं अभी, और उन्हें तब तक उनको ढूंढा जाएगा। ये देखिए, ये पर्स मुझे नजर आ रहा है, ये आई कार्ड, ये पर्स, ये आई कार्ड, इस तरह से ये पूरा जो अब सिर्फ मात्र ये एक छोटी बिल्डिंग यहाँ पर बची हुई है, जबकि बहुत बड़ी ये आर्मी की मेस थी। तो ये जवान यहाँ, ये हेलमेट ये नजर आ रहा है और बहुत सारी चीजें जो जरूरी यहाँ सामान है उनको यहाँ पर ढूंढा जा रहा है।
And with this report, you know now finally what exactly has happened on the 5th of August in parts of Uttarkashi and the region of Uttarakhand. And not just Manjeet Negi, our other colleagues as well, Anjali Eastwal and Ashutosh Mishra are also joining us from different parts, remember, locations wherever they can possibly reach. And I must add here, both Anjali and Ashutosh have trekked for hours, viewer. It's an exhaustive assignment to be on, and they've been able to get you some very significant first-hand reports. Anjali, first to you. You're in Bhatwari, I hear. That also has witnessed extensive damage. What is the situation looking like around you? What are people saying?
So, Pooja, it was in the morning that we brought the news, the good news from Bhatwari, and that was the fixing of those road sinks that were delinking Uttarkashi from Harshal. Now, I am standing at one of those points. I'm going to quickly step back for you to see. Now the road is mended. Although, you know, by the usual standards, you may not think so, but this is enough for the BRO trucks to carry the material all the way to Gangwani, where is the bridge, that concrete bridge that got washed off. Now, it is important that this link is completely fixed. There are 3 to 4 major slide points and 2 were fixed today in front of us, in front of our eyes. And the bridge, it is expected all the material and manpower will be taken over there by tonight. And hopefully, if there is illumination, if they manage to use a generator, which is also being moved over there, then they can work through the night. If that happens, then tomorrow the work of building the bridge begins. And that bridge is crucial. Ashutosh Mishra had earlier reported from there. It was a concrete bridge that completely got washed off. And now, while the 2 ends are concrete and they still stand there, they're going to put a belly bridge, which is basically BRO is going to put a metal bridge by raising a tar and then quickly...
Wow.
Trying to put iron bars and extending it into a bridge. So this is going to happen, but we can expect it only to be functional by tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. So we shouldn't really hasten this process, but hopes are up.
Anjali, stay on with me, please. Ashutosh also is joining us. Ashutosh, the weather looks slightly better now behind you. Do you think that's in many ways a relief and hope in itself? What have you seen while you were driving, trekking, walking in Uttarakhand in the past 2 days?
Only for this broadcast, Pooja, I had to come back from Gangwani because I'll be, camping exactly in Gangwani. Somehow the area is still not connected with the communication and with the electricity. This is the last city. The Bhatwadi is the last city because we had the highway washed away. You just saw the report by Anjali. So in those areas, now the connectivity has been restored, and this is very essential when you talk about rescue and relief operations. So once Gangwani, the Valley Bridge, which is restored, will be very close to Dharali and Harshil. So by tomorrow evening we are expecting and positively that more booths will be on the ground as far as rescue teams are concerned, because for now the number of people that are already there in Dharali and Harshil that still remain inadequate, because you need more and more resources, including generators, heavy voltage electricity, communication networks, restoration, and of course so far, as you rightly said, the weather is clear, but now we just heard from the NDMA that there is a heavy rain warning predicted, with moderate rain warning predicted, including in the district of Uttarkashi. So as long as weather is clear, the sky operations, the air operations, heli operations will continue. But the logistical challenges that remain unless you have the road connectivity restored, and subsequently the network, communication, electricity. There are many people, hundreds of these people who are looking for their loved ones who are still missing. They also wants to reach, and perhaps once the road connectivity is restored, we will rather mobilize more human efforts and machineries to the rescue, to the site.
Yeah, only if convenient to both of you, please continue to stay with us, because I want to come back to you for more perspective on what exactly do you see around you. Meanwhile, I want to take the viewer to the latest visuals that have come in from Uttarakhand, especially from the belt where this incident has taken place. Let's begin one by one. Now, the visuals on your screen show the aftermath. The massive destruction. This is Harsil, where India Today has also been reporting from. The visual shows clearly an army truck broken, the infrastructure completely demolished. Even a military truck, which remember is extremely heavy, turned upside down because of the sludge and the mudslide. Army personnel making efforts to clear the debris. This is India Today exclusive. In a major logistical push to speed up the restoration effort in flood-ravaged Harsil, the Indian Air Force has deployed Boeing CH-47 Chinook helicopter to airlift heavy machinery from Dehradun to have a ground connectivity as well that's been crippled by the collapse of the Bailey bridges and flash floods. Look at this. This is the Dev Bhumi, as we call Uttarakhand. But currently with the disaster, it's broken roads, connectivity disrupted, life thrown out of gear. Many who have been missing for the past 3 days. But the round-the-clock restoration work is underway, at least to connect the roads. Army Cheetah helicopter conducting recce in Batwali on the disrupted connectivity area due to the impact of the flash floods that battered the region. Rescue ops are underway, whether it's NDRF, SDRF or the Indian Armed Forces, showing how stranded tourists and local residents are being evacuated to safety. This, remember, is again the contribution of whether it's men or women in uniform of local volunteers, how they are helping to rescue. Eventually, it's the rescue ops that are of prime importance right now. It is important for you to understand what the region looks like, what is the distance from top tourist or religious destinations. Our open source intelligence team, the OSINT team of India Today, is bringing you this map illustration. As you look at the locations, you will understand further. Look at that. So Uttarkashi, which is usually a more known zone, whether it comes to tourist or religious destination, when you start going up, that's Bhatwari, that's where our reporters have been able to reach primarily to get you the background. Above this, a lot of area has been completely disrupted, especially because of the road access. Gangnani, where also India Today has been reporting from, these are areas, this belt that you see marked in red has been the area that has completely been washed away in most of its parts, especially near Harsil. Dharali is the prime spot in many ways, as we use the term epicenter sometimes, where the landslide, the cloudburst and the flash floods have swept away villages. While there are those who have died, many are missing, whether tourists, devotees or local residents. So that map is to help you understand, especially with regard to the health state. So I want to go back and return to Anjali now and Ashutosh as well. Anjali, what are people in administration around you telling you? I'm sure many are missing right now. What is being done to ensure rescue operations are in time? How much work is needed? How much time will it take?
Pooja, it all depends on two things. The rescue operations can be conducted, but how do you ensure that the people and the people that you manage to take out who are stranded in case, or for that matter, people who are not with us anymore, how are their bodies also brought back? So the issue is, unless and until these road links which are disrupted right now, they are mended, the SDRF and the NDRF teams cannot go to the point zero where it all happened. So very importantly, this link needs to be fixed. After that, they can talk about, bringing people back. Although there is another team from the other side, Harshal, which is trying to build the road connectivity. So the expectation is that they'll meet somewhere in between, and Gangotri, all the way to Gangotri, it can be connected. But meanwhile, air operations are continuing, as we've heard, and they are continuing to bring people outside those zones which are still considered dangerous, and bringing them to safety and safer zones.
So what Anjali is also telling us, remember, time is of essence here. Ashutosh, tell me this, for the viewer watching right now, the kind of effort, hours that it takes and has taken even for you to be able to reach these destinations where otherwise there's absolutely no connectivity and access. And I'm sure similar is the case for the local residents, the tourists stranded, the devotees.
The number of people have been evacuated so far, because before the relief and rescue, the primary is the evacuation for those who are still visible, stranded, alive. And that's exactly why we see 300 people have been evacuated from Gangotri, around 274 from Harshil, because they were all stranded areas. Looks like primarily the evacuation process has been completed. It is now time to rescue those who could be potentially trapped and there is no information about them. So those who are visible, there is some information about people possibly be trapped, that though this will be rescued. But the search operation will be essential, because so far we do not have a correct death toll other than the official number, which is somewhere between 5 to 6. But looking at the number, potential that people, those who have come from that region, those who were saved and rescued, they claim that this could be the number of people who were already there, because there were local festival happening. It was Char Dham pilgrimage going on. Subsequently, tourists who often visit to Harshil, Gangotri, or for other treks. So clearly that number, that will only depend upon when the search operations begin. And because of these hurdles, when we see the number of people, remember, every day, almost twice a day, twice a day, I've been going to different access, different areas, different pockets, but it has only ended with disappointment. I always ended up at some dead end where there was no possibly other way to cross over that bridge, or any not even a narrow escape is possible. And had there been any possibly chance of a narrow escape, people would have crossed this area and have gone by walk by themselves to find out their loved ones. And we see here many of these people who are waiting for their loved ones, and there is no information. Again, there is no electricity, there is no communication. So there are primarily challenges for the rescuers, for the authorities, for the administration, and they are meeting with all the challenges. The one day has been lucky that because of the weather was clear, we carried out several air operations, the heli services. But what will happen tomorrow? Again, it all depends on the weather. If the weather is clear, the air operation will continue. In fact, Chinook also today provided multiple generators from Dehradun's Jolly Grant Airport and several other logistics. But a mass level of logistics that will be required for the search operations, relief operations, and again rebuilding that structure will take a lot of things, including that making of that bridge, which is essentially Army engineering team going to complete it in 24 hours, Pooja.
All right, Ashutosh and Anjali Ishtwal, Manjeet Negi are on the ground. It's going to be a long night the next few days as well for both of you. Thank you for joining us with your ground reports and your perspective as well, because I want to play what Anjali and Ashutosh have sent. And here's now a special report about how our colleagues are trying to bring you all perspectives possible from Uttarakhand. And a question, therefore, I ask. It's not the first time, possibly not the last, that Uttarakhand, our hill state, our Devbhoomi, is facing this. Is this construction? Is this development which without a thought is leading to such disasters year after year for Uttarakhand especially? Here's a report.
After devastation and deluge, there was finally a glimmer of hope in flood-ravaged Uttarkashi as the relentless rains began to ease. And with that, the crucial highway to Dharali, which was cut off, was finally reopened. And through that battered stretch, Team India today was among the first to pass.
First vehicle to cross on this patch since it had fallen. First team is of India Today and Aaj Tak that is going over this road, which the BRO team has fixed right in front of our eyes, connecting right now a certain patch which was one of the biggest deterrent ever to the ground zero, to taking the relief to the ground zero. We've managed to cross it and we've become the first team. हम पहली टीम है आज तक की और इंडिया टुडे की जिसने ये रास्ता क्रॉस कर लिया है।
सबसे पहले यहाँ पहुंचा था जब रास्ता बंद था। चलिए रास्ता खोलते, पीछे पूरा काफिला शुरू हो गया है।
But the scars remain. Roads access is still broken in Batwari, Harsil and parts of Dharali. Restoration is ongoing but the clock is ticking. The Dharali helipad lies buried in mud while operations continue via the Harsil military and Nilong civil helipads. India Today reached the very heart of the disaster zone. It is the only channel reporting live from ground zero, from the same shattered village where nature's fury turned homes to rubble.
हम आपको यहाँ की एक्सक्लूसिव तस्वीरें दिखा रहे हैं। यहाँ पर जो राहत और बचाव का काम युद्धस्तर पर सेना चला रही है, बाकी एजेंसियों के साथ, चाहे एनडीआरएफ हो, एसडीआरएफ हो, लोकल प्रशासन हो, यहाँ पर इस वक्त राहत और बचाव का काम चल रहा है। जो लोग फंसे हुए हैं उनको निकालने का काम चल रहा है।
On the ground, over 225 army personnel, rescue dogs, medics and engineers are racing against time, searching for those still missing. Chinook helicopters are rescuing hundreds of civilians.
हम यहाँ गंगोत्री घूमने भी आए थे और लेकिन जो भी हो गया और आर्मी लोगों ने हमें अच्छे से रेस्क्यू करा दिया और यहाँ तक पहुँचा दिया। बहुत अच्छे से ध्यान रखा हमारा।
Critically injured victims are being airlifted to Dehradun and AIIMS Rishikesh. And in the middle of this human tragedy, Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami met victims, reviewed efforts and reminded survivors that they are not alone.
आज प्रातःकाल से ही हेलीकॉप्टर से और चिनूक से सभी को निकालने की प्रक्रिया प्रारंभ हुई और अभी तक 274 लोगों को रेस्क्यू किया जा चुका है, देहरादून भी और यहाँ भी, और उसमें सभी प्रांतों के लोग हैं, वो सभी सुरक्षित हैं, उन सभी को यहाँ निकाला जा रहा है।
As rescue efforts continue, there is still no clue on how many actually perished days after the tragedy. With Anjali Stewal, Manjeet Negi and Ashutosh Mishra in Uttarkashi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So these are the ground images. I want to also tell you about the satellite images. What is it looking like with regard to how the ground right now in Uttarakhand has become? Look at that. Before, a beautiful tourist, religious destination, home for so many people in Uttarakhand, and then this is what it has become. When the landslide happened after the cloud burst, the river water that was usually on a high number as well of the depth, but suddenly increased. And remember, this gave barely few minutes to the people on the ground. And like you're looking at the visuals on your screen, these are the satellite images. There were two, in fact, the flash floods that happened. Sukhi Top and, of course, in the Dharali village. And with that swept away, villages, local residents, devotees, tourists, Indian Armed Forces personnel have been missing as well. Of course, the rescue operations are on, whether it's disaster management team of Uttarakhand government on the ground, SDRF, NDRF or the Indian Army as always. But it's a reminder of nature's fury, adding on to perhaps this uninterrupted construction, thoughtless sometimes, that has led to loss of life. When will we wake up and take a decision to ensure this does not happen again? Meanwhile, alerts have been sent because the river and its alerts that the level of the river water has increased as well. Our prayers with the families, and we'll continue to get you all the latest reports. It's a story we are not forgetting. All right, big news coming on India Today. The NDA will likely announce the vice president candidate pick for the NDA on 12th August. So in the next 4 days, stay tuned. Our sources are telling us that JP Nadda, who's of course the party chief but also leader of House in the Rajya Sabha, and Prime Minister will pick the NDA vice president face. So the party appears to have given them a unanimous choice. and the free will to decide on that NDA pick. Who is it going to be? There are, of course, several front-runners, guesses, but when it comes to the Bharatiya Janata Party or even the NDA, we know that usually it's not the guess or the speculation, but a surprise pick. Aishwarya Paliwal joins me for the latest on that. Aishwarya, so it looks like that now the name would be decided, at least for the NDA. The JP Nadda and Prime Minister Modi will take that pick, but I wonder who is it going to be?
At the moment, this is something, the names, there's some speculation of names, but some of the understanding, one thing is very, very clear. It's the fact that they have made sure that both the Prime Minister and JP Nadda at the moment have been given the response, making sure on behalf of the entire NDA, and they are the ones who will choose the candidate. The NDA has made sure that we have full support.
The NDA pick, but the elections will take a few weeks to come. So do you think there's the name possibly has been decided already? Is there going to be deliberation on this? Because the party appears to have said it's going to be final decision by the Prime Minister and JP Nadda.
Big statements coming in from the NDA, very, very clearly they are saying at the moment that they are the ones who will be deciding. But yes, one thing which has been done in today's meeting, and this is very crucial and very important to note, is the fact that they have said that they all need to be on the same page. The voting that happens, that voting has to be very, very clear, very, very precise. Everyone needs to know for who they are voting. So those are the minor details that have today been ironed out. Pooja, we will get the name from what we are understanding by the 12th of August, and then we will see the nomination process being done. The last day of filing the nomination is on the 21st of August. The last day when people can take back the nomination is on the 22nd of August.
Right, Aishwarya will be tracking all the latest on that. Who is it that's going to be picked by the Prime Minister and JP Nadda for the NDA Vice President pick? And of course, there will be then elections that follow. But remember, the NDA has the number in the Rajya Sabha and as much, of course, in the Lok Sabha. But this is going to be a very crucial decision after the kind of sudden resignation that came in from Jagdeep Dhankar. So we'll be tracking more on that. 12th August, NDA's pick.
Another racist attack on Indians in Ireland. Six-year-old Indian origin girl assaulted. Kicked in her private parts, left injured and traumatized. Goons shout, "Go back to India."
Gang who punched her, they were telling, "Go back to India," something like that, dirty Indian, go back. You know, that was so upsetting. Like, I didn't realize I didn't belong here.
Who's fueling the hate against Indians in Dublin is our top focus on 5 Live.
Just imagine this for a second. You're a young parent, so am I. Your 6-year-old child comes to you, traumatized, panicked, and then later you realize also sore with injuries, even in her private parts. And she tells you that there were these teenagers outside who traumatized her, beat her up and said, "Go back to India." How would you react as a parent? And when you're not even in the country? There have been a disturbing series of racism attacks against Indian origin community in Ireland, in Dublin especially, in this past 1 month. About 80,000 Indians are residing in Ireland right now. The most shocking is the latest case with 6-year-old girl child of Indian origin, who's now an Irish citizen though, brutally assaulted right outside her residence. This was in Waterford. The child was playing right outside her house when a group of boys, and when I say boys, 12 to 14 years of age, came attacking her and shouting, "Go back to India." According to her mother, the attackers even hit her with their bicycle in her private parts, punching her in the face repeatedly. She's a 6-year-old child, leaving her traumatized and in tears. The incident follows racist attacks that happened in Dublin, where Lakveer Singh, an Indian taxi driver in Ireland for over 23 years, was brutally beaten with a bottle by 2 passengers. Again said, "Go back to your country." There have been physical attacks in the past few days as well. Indian embassy has given out an advisory as well and helpline number. But the question to be asked is, who is fueling these attacks? First, I want you to listen in to the parents. We have, of course, blurred their visuals and identity, considering the sensitivity of the matter. But it's so gruesome. and the parents as much are scared.
I'm not feeling safe even at my home. You know, I don't have any words to explain. The only thing I wasn't able to protect my daughter at that time. I am not getting much support. That's what I believe. Yeah.
And do you feel that your nationality was a factor in this incident?
Yeah, I can't. That's the only thing scaring me now. I didn't realize that's my nationality because my girl, she expressed at the night after the incident that, the gang who punched her, they were telling, go back to India, something like that, dirty Indian, go back. You know, that was so upsetting. Like, I didn't realize I didn't belong here. That's so upsetting. Yeah.
Have you ever had any racial problems yourself? You've been in Ireland for, I think, 8 years. Have you ever had any problems yourself?
What I believe is that there will be good and bad people in and around. I had few incidents, like it's not really upsetting. Like, I'm not a person who always taking things, like that. But this is the first incident that happened to my family. And I know that, I'm not the only person who is experiencing these kind of things.
So are these random, isolated incidents, or is there a pattern? Why only Indian origin or Indians who are residing there in Ireland are being targeted? Even children are not being spared. What's happening? Let me just take you through the timeline of some of the incidents. The latest is, this is 4th August incident in Waterford, 6-year-old. This Indian origin girl, though an Irish citizen, attacked by teenager boys, but very specifically because they kept shouting, go back to India. She was hit in her private parts. Who does that? Slurs were yelled at her. But the 1st of August, remember, Dublin taxi driver Lakhvir Singh was hit with bottles. The attackers were actually the passengers of this taxi drivers, again shouting, go back to your country. He tried to ask for help, eventually had to call the police. Not much happened. 19th July. It was in Dublin. An Indian tech worker, remember, brutally stripped, stabbed, beaten, targeted on face, arms, legs by, again, teenagers, even branded a pedophile. But it was a local Irish woman who saved him. She was the hero, and she said there were no accusations against him. He was just being beaten randomly. Then 26th July, again in Dublin. This was an AI scientist contributing positively to the Irish economy and their development. Santosh Yadav was beaten, again by a teenager gang, assaulted right outside his apartment. And the thread here is, most of these attackers and accused are young men, barely teenagers, targeting specifically Indian origin. So I have some questions I ask here. When we begin with this incident, the latest one, how is an attack on 6-year-old girl child in this brutal manner justified at all? Who thinks it's the right thing to do? But a bigger question, who is fueling anti-Indian hate in Ireland? Is someone doing this deliberately? What action has been taken by their government after 4 attacks on Indians or Indian origin Irish citizens? Is there a deliberate plan to target Indian origin population? They've been contributing positively, about 80,000 residing there. They are only adding to the Irish economy. They are not a law and order concern. They've been legal immigrants who are in many ways an asset to Ireland. Who then wants them out and why? What is the government of Ireland's plan to protect the Indian immigrants specifically in the country and immigrants at large? So let's try and understand that. Joining me in this telecast on 5 Live right now is Supriya Singh. She's the Dublin City Councillor, works with the government and the population on the ground as well. Supriya, thank you for joining me. What do you think can be done to ensure action is taken with this regard? As a councillor yourself, have you spoken to the family? How are you helping the family? How are you reaching out to the top politicians to be able to bring them some relief?
So, Pooja, I met with the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Ray McAdam, this morning, and I can confirm that he is taking these incidents extremely seriously. He has sought a meeting with the Garda Commissioner to address the issue at the highest level and will also be reaching out to the Indian ambassador personally to offer reassurance regarding the safety and protection of Indian nationals in Dublin. As a local representative, I am working closely with the affected families, offering support, liaising with Gardaí and ensuring their concerns are taken seriously. I have also spoken to Tanisha Simon Harris, who has condemned these attacks and has raised the matter with the Minister of Justice. And furthermore, I have also called for the urgent strengthening of Ireland's hate crime legislation. It is essential that young offenders understand the gravity of hate-based violence, no one, regardless of age, should be allowed to spread hatred and walk away without consequences. Justice must be served. And I'm in contact with many affected families. I've been speaking to them. The rise of far-right extremism, especially online, is deeply alarming. We cannot allow hatred, misinformation, or imported ideologies to take root in our communities. Ireland is and must remain a place of safety, inclusion, and mutual respect. And Dublin is known around the world as a city of 100,000 welcomes. And what we are witnessing in recent times, the targeted racial attacks on Indian families, does not represent the values of Dublin or of Ireland. And these actions are vile, unacceptable, and entirely out of step with who we are as an Irish society.
But that's what I'm wondering then. What is the reason, Supriya, you feel that what is fueling these attacks against Indians or Indian origin Irish citizens, 4 in a month at least? Is there a deliberate push, do you think, by these far-right agitators? They are promoting this hate against Indian origin families.
Yes, it is a bit disappointing, but yes, indeed, it is a deliberate push by far-right. We are seeing disturbing rise lately by the far-right influence in Ireland. See, these attacks, they do not happen in isolation. They are part of a broader narrative, what I feel is being pushed online and in certain social media circles to demean migrants, including the Indian origin families. Far-right agitators, they are using platforms with little or no moderation to spread hate, misinformation, conspiracy theories. Unfortunately, vulnerable young people, particularly those from under-supervised or disadvantaged backgrounds, are being exposed to this content. They are being radicalized online and influenced by hyper-violent content, sometimes tied to the combat sports like UFC, which is also being misused to glorify dominance and aggression. What we are seeing is a toxic mix of online extremism, misinformation, and misplaced anger, targeting peaceful and hardworking families who have contributed greatly to Irish society.
So this online check also is needed, especially with regard to who is writing and what. You are in touch, I'm sure, with the Indian origin families. What are they telling you? What is the sentiment on the ground? Because Indian Embassy also has given out an advisory and to take precautions. Is there tension in the area?
There is a concern and fear among Indian origin families in the community right now. What they expect is action against perpetrators, visible support from Gardaí, and long-term safety measures and stronger legal protections. And I will emphasize again that Dublin is a city known for its 100,000 welcomes. And what we are seeing right now does not represent Dublin or Ireland. That message must be loud and clear. We cannot allow hate, especially online, to masquerade as free speech when it has such real-world consequences.
So then let's talk solutions, because I understand that India and Ireland have been friends, allies. There's no tension between the countries. So do you think there's awareness needed for the local Irish population, especially the youth there, to understand that Indians are contributing positively? This diversity isn't there to cause problems. So what can be done as an inter-community interaction by the leaders?
Absolutely. The Indian community in Ireland plays a vital role in nearly every sector: healthcare, education, technology, small businesses. Indians are not just migrants, they are our colleagues, neighbors, and friends. Unfortunately, this truth is being drowned by extremist voices online, where platforms like X, formerly known as Twitter, under the ownership of Elon Musk, have become increasingly tolerant of hate speech, conspiracy theories, and far-right propaganda. I mean, accounts spreading anti-immigrant hatred in Ireland, including targeted misinformation about Indian origin families, have received likes from Elon Musk's own account. And this is deeply alarming. When one of the most influential figures engages with extremist content and it legitimizes hate and emboldens those who seek to divide society. So, I mean, I respectfully urge the government of India as well to raise this matter with Elon Musk and seek clarification on why his platform is enabling accounts that actively target the Indian community in Ireland and other countries. We cannot allow hate, especially online, to masquerade as free speech when it has such real-world consequences.
All right, I appreciate you joining us, Supriya, and we've put out that image where you've met also some of the senior leaders there in Ireland, and we hope that some solution comes to it. This is absolutely unacceptable about what has been done. I'll put out that image of the family again for you. The family where a little child especially has been targeted and how, and I'll leave you with this image to think. For Ireland, for people back here, families back here in India as well, about what this child must be going through and the family as well in fear. Let's hope that whether it's counselling, arrest, but some action is taken. Thank you. Disgusting, perversion, use any term you want, but the fact is happening so close to the National Capital Region, the NCR specifically in Gurugram. This is what happened, and because it's caught on camera, at least there's evidence. This man, knowing fairly well what he's doing and where he's standing, unzips his trousers and starts to masturbate in front of a woman model. She was waiting for a cab at the Rajiv Chowk station. The model, who had come from Jaipur basically, managed to somehow capture the incident from a mobile phone. Later posted the video online saying that this is the reality women face every day. It needs to stop. She claims she called the cab driver, police and the women helpline, which is 1090, but did not get any response. But she later declined to file a formal complaint. She says she's still in fear and shock from the traumatic incident, raising serious questions about women's safety and functional status and the safety mechanisms in Delhi NCR. But that visual in itself, it's not as much about the incident, but the audacity of the man and the fact that he's wearing a mask so that just in case he's caught, his identity wouldn't be revealed. Let's hope that the police are able to nab him soon. Here's what the woman speaking to India Today said to my colleague Suyesh Samant.
If you could talk about it in detail, because it's important to put out your story, it's important that all women talk about how this is happening.
Initially, he was staring me from a distance. Then he tried to come closer and closer, and he just came in front of me and kept staring at me. Then I realized that his pants zip was unzipped, and he took his penis outside and started masturbating in front of me. I initially froze. I didn't record. I didn't react it because I was scared. So I cancelled the ride and I booked another ride. The another ride also took nearly 10 to 15 minutes to arrive because the traffic was really intense and crazy. And I noticed the man was masturbating. So I thought to record the video for the proof, just in case something happens. Or maybe if I would have slapped him. Because, you know, people always come to take the videos to put this on social media. They really don't help people. So I recorded video for the evidence. I came back to my place. I tweeted everything on Twitter, and I also tagged the Gurugram police and the local authorities, but there was no automated message, no response. So the other day, I recorded the whole incident and the video and the picture and put it on the social media. And not the exact same day, but the other day, I got a call, like a message from the police station, and then they called me yesterday to file the complaint. And I went there. They asked me to come to the Rajiv Chowk. So I went there, and today they asked me to come to the court with the proof in pen drive. So yeah, I'm ready to cooperate with them because I really want to take some really real action on this.
All right, and our final report on 5 Live. US President Donald Trump is clearly talk of the town. He's hit India with a 50% tariff now over, for example, Russian oil imports. But Apple was notably exempted. This came just days after the CEO Tim Cook gave Trump a custom gold-mounted gift. A coincidence or strategy? I leave it to you to decide. Thank you for watching 5 Live. Here's the report.
Even as President Trump hits India with a 50% total tariff penalty for its continued purchase of Russian oil, one company with substantial stakes in India seems to have walked free: Apple, which is going out of its way to woo Trump. It's a moment of high optics days before a sweeping economic order on semiconductors. Apple CEO Tim Cook handed over a custom-made gift to Trump. A glass statue mounted on 24-karat gold crafted by a US Marine veteran. Cook called it a tribute, a token of American craftsmanship and innovation. But the timing raises eyebrows, because right after that symbolic gesture, Trump's new tariff order exempted Apple from the fresh penalties. While most Indian imports now face a total 50% duty, Apple's flagship products, often made in India, have been given a clean pass, at least for the time being. Trump has meanwhile threatened a 100% tariff on imported chips and semiconductors, a move that could disrupt global tech supply chains. But Apple may already be ahead of that curve. Soon after the White House event, Cook announced Apple would invest an additional $100 billion into US jobs and manufacturing, taking its total US investment commitment to $600 billion.
Today, Apple is announcing that it will invest $600 billion, that's with a B, in the United States over the next 4 years. That's $100 billion more than they were originally going to invest. And this is the largest investment Apple has ever made in America and anywhere else. And it's just an honor to have you.
So was it just a generous gift or a golden bribe wrapped in patriotism? Bureau Report, India Today.